This is the Synido TempoPad, and this is a brand new MIDI controller consisting of 16 pads, 4 assignable knobs, and some assignable transport controllers. Now, there are in particular 2 things that make this MIDI device unique. Number 1 is its size. It's very thin and it's small and light, and therefore it's very portable. And the second one is the price. Now, the list price for this is only $89.99, which already is a great price. But in addition to that, they have an early bird special at the moment, which knocks off another 12%. And on top of that, you can use the discount code that I will share later in the video to knock off another 10% in addition to that. And that leaves the end price of this device to only $70 for a limited time period. So let's take a closer look at what this device is and what it can do. And a quick disclaimer, this device was sent to me by the people at Synido in order to make a video for it, but they did not pay me and they have not told me what to say. So this is the Synido TempoPad. Now it comes with a few cool things, so let's look at those first. We have this pouch, comes with, that you can use to protect it if you're traveling. It also comes with a USB-C cable, and also something I find very cool is that it comes with a 5-pin to DIN MIDI adapter. Now let's look at the hardware itself. So it's a pretty standard MIDI controller, and if you have any experience with MIDI pads, this should be a fairly straightforward device for you to use. So obviously the main feature here is the pads that you can use to trigger slices and pads and drums. It also has these 4 knobs that you can assign to any function in your DAW. These buttons right here control the pad itself. And then you have these transport controllers that are assignable as well. The back has a very nice anti-slip surface that allows the pad to be very sturdy and not slide around. And here you have the various inputs and outputs. So this is a locking mechanism. I've never used one, but most devices come with them. This is the MIDI out, where you can use this to control hardware, which is a very useful feature, which a lot of USB MIDI controllers don't have. So I think this is a genius thing that they have included. Then you have this USB-C port right here, which connects your TempoPad to your computer or iPad or phone so that you can connect it to a DAW. And then you have an additional USB-C port right here. And this, you can see, says DC 5 volt, which means that this is purely used for supplying power if your device does not have enough bus power coming out. So if you're connecting this to a computer, for example, you will not need to use this port whatsoever. But for smaller devices like phones and tablets, you will have to provide some additional power through this. So you can use any additional power source. So you can use either a wall charger, or if you're traveling or taking it with you, you can use a power bank. That requires some extra planning, but then again, most people have power banks and use them quite frequently. Okay, so now I have connected the TempoPad to my computer, and then we can just look at a few of the features here. So it has various modes. Now it's in pad mode. If you press mode, you can get it in chromatic mode, and we'll look at that a little later. So when you're in pad mode, by default the pads are not lit up, and they light up when pressed. And this is very useful for things like performance, where you can actually show off what you are using and what your fingers are actually pressing. But you can also change it by pressing mode, and then they are constantly lit up, and they only stop being lit up when you press them. So you can see it's lit up red because we're in pad 1. Press again, we're in pad 2 and we're green, and pad 3 is blue or purple. And you can see the color is corresponding to the color in the pad bank button. But each color can be assigned differently in the software as well. The colors are completely customizable, and you can go into the app and then you can change whatever color you want from a color wheel, and then you can send it straight to the pad. So for the pad mode, This is typically when you want to use a drum kit or something like this. Or like we saw in the beginning of the video, in the intro of the video, to trigger slices. Like I had piano slices on the top 8 pads and drums on the bottom 8. And the thing that's great with these 4x4 pad layouts is that they work perfectly with the Ableton drum rack, like you can see here. The default layout of the TempoPad won't necessarily be aligned with your DAW when you first connect it, but it's very easy to use the software and set it up in a way that works perfectly with your DAW. So that's what I did with this one. I adjusted all the pads up an octave, and that way they fit perfectly with just standard default Ableton drum racks. Here on the velocity type, you have various settings as well that you cycle through. For example, the white one has a lower velocity. The blue one has a slightly higher velocity, and then you have fixed velocity and also a velocity type that is designed for people that tend to hit very hard on the pads. Next, we can look at the chromatic mode. So here you can see the pads are lit up. So the yellow pads correspond to the white keys, the blue to the black keys, and these two orange pads are used to change octaves. So here we have this one. Press up. We can change octaves easily like that. Next, we have the knobs. They also have 3 separate banks. So you can see the color changing. I think you can see it on the camera at least. So you can see here you have purple, red, and green. So currently I've assigned these 2 knobs to these 2 plugins here in Ableton. So this controls the filter like this, and this one controls the overdrive on this pedal plugin. So you can assign this to anything you want in your DAW. By default, I couldn't see that it was assigned to anything in Ableton, but it's easy to just go to this MIDI setting right here. So say we, for example, want to assign a fader, we can do this. And now we have volume control over. So we have 3 parameters we can mess with here. And of course, because we have 3 separate banks for the knobs, that means that you have 12 different parameters that you can change. So that's very useful, and the fact that everything is so close to the knobs, you can so quickly and easily cycle through, and also the color coding makes it very easy. Next, we have a note repeat. Which is very self-explanatory. Repeats the note that you keep pressed. And you can change tempo by tapping this tap tempo button. And you can see the tap tempo button is blinking in the tempo that the note repeat is set to. These transport buttons right here do not correspond to anything by default, at least not in Ableton Live. So you can either go into the software and assign each button the MIDI value they need to correspond to the corresponding buttons in Ableton Live, or you can just go into the MIDI assign mode and just assign each button. But then of course you will have to do this every time you use it. So it might be a time saver to go into the software and just assign the appropriate value to each button. Like you can see, this is a very versatile little MIDI controller, very portable and very cheap. If you use the early bird special and also my discount code, you can, like I said, get this for only $70. The discount code is 10PhilipUS and the link is in the description. So what do you think? Is this something you would find useful? Please let me know, leave a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.